Okay, so we're going to take a look at creating display styles. And basically with the display styles, you're controlling the appearance of the model. From the edges and profiles to the faces, background, also the watermark settings and the model settings. The model settings would include things like the model access and origin, guidelines, and things like that. So if I quickly show you just some examples of styles. All right, so if you take a look at the styles palette here, I'm starting in the model. And I would suggest to explore making styles by checking out some of these categories of existing styles. First, let me just show you what I have here. You can see in this current view, I've got a presentation style that includes background, edge settings, and face settings. Using the Edit tab, we can look at the parameters for each of these properties, the edge settings. You can see my selection here. I've got profiles, a little bit of extension, a little halo, quite a bit of detail. You can see the stroke setting here, and I'll show you in just a minute how you can mix and match different styles. And I would recommend that you create a style like this for presentation that's full color with edge settings, but also create a black and white sketch setting, create a very simple 2D DWG setting so that you can apply this to your model views. So looking at the one that I have right now, if you look at the edge settings and switch over to the face settings, you can see I can use either a black and white or simple color or color with texture setting like I have right now. And also you can see here for my background settings, even though my background is white, I'm actually showing a sky, that it's a gradient, and also a ground in the back to show the horizon. For my watermarks, you can see right now I have none. And for the model settings, you can see I'm not showing any of the planes, any of the hidden geometry, any of the section cuts, or the model axes. So you should also include one that's like a simple modeling style where you see some of these items, these reference geometries, right, while you're modeling without any effects. So if I go back here to select, you can see I have the presentation style. You can see I have a 2D DWG style. Take a look at the edge settings here, right? There's no extensions, no edge effects, just clean CAD lines. You can see here with a presentation black and white style, there's no color, no textures, but what you see right now is an edge setting effect. And then also here's the simple modeling style, right? With this particular style, you can see under Edit for the modeling properties how I'm showing the section planes, the model axes, and section cuts. So we already took a look at the presentation style. Take a look at the 2D DWG style here. And you can see under Edit, starting with edge settings, I'm showing the edges. I've got a profile, really light, 1 pixel. For my faces, I've got black and white. For my background, I'm not showing any sky or ground, and I just have a plain white background. Again, no watermarks. The model settings, you can see I'm showing the section cut, which is the result I have right here. And then if I go back again to select, let's take a look at a presentation black and white style. So very similar to the one I have here, all right? And you can see I could create variations of the same one. So whereas in one I may have a background and sky, for example, let's go to an exterior view. Okay, you can see with that style I have a background and ground and sky. And I could create a separate style just by duplicating it and removing other features or effects. So if we take a look at, this is the full color, you can see there, I'm showing the section planes or the section cuts. Here you can see I'm not showing any edges, it's just full color. And then I have quite a variety of other styles there. So styles are going to be very important. You should have a presentation style, full color, a presentation style, black and white, right? You could have a presentation style, full color with no edges, so you can make a composite later using Photoshop. And then you could have a very basic 2D, very simple, no edge effects style here. So we'll take a look at making these styles as I showed you by looking at edit here. But now let's take a quick minute to see how we can use existing styles, right, to mix and match and create our own. So I'll give you a few samples of that. And then afterwards, we'll take a look at making the scenes. So, for example, just to start, what you'd want to do is try to get a view with lots of detail. And that could be whether it's a view on the outside, the exterior, okay? And I could remove the display cuts here so I can show all the detail. And the idea here is try to get as much detail in a single view as possible. That way you can see what the effects are of profile lines or the edge effects that you're using. So I got quite a bit of detail in this view here. And it doesn't matter if it's an orthographic, parallel, or perspective view. Okay, you can switch your camera view very easily to test. So let's take a look at making some of these styles. First, if I switch over to mix, what you'll see here is that your style palette is divided in two. Okay, looks a lot different when you're just doing simple selection. As you can see here in the drop-down menu, I can go into each of those categories of styles. These are the preset styles. Later I can show you how to customize and create your own folder of styles. But for now, you can see from here in these selections, these are pre-made styles. If I go to edit, this is where I can edit the properties for the edge, face, background, model settings, etc. for any of the selected styles. But now, using mix, we'll create our own. So once you go to mix, you'll see the display palette. It'll be divided in two. Okay? And so what you'll have here is, these are the drop boxes. These are the drop boxes for the edge settings, face settings, etc. And the way this works is, where the palette is divided, use the drop-down menu here to start making choices from the selections. So let's say we're going to make a simple DWG style like you see here. What I can start with first are the default styles. Now the way this works is you have a thumbnail image here, right? And let's say for the DWG style, we don't want to have any kind of model axes, just very simple, right? No effects, black and white. So I can start by just looking at any of these styles, and if I click on it, nothing's going to happen, as opposed to when I'm in select. When you're in select mode, you apply the style that you select. But here, if I click, hold, drag, and then drop the chosen style on any of these drop boxes, then I will create or modify the existing style, right? So here's what I would suggest. Create a brand new style from scratch and build it by mixing it, right? So let's say I'm going to give this a whole different name. I'll call this 2D DWG black and white. Now I have a bunch of these styles already, so I've probably renamed it more than once. And what you could do is, now you can see I've got a new style and it's ready to be updated. So start by looking at some of these default styles, okay? You can check out any one of these and just see what happens. Just click, hold, drag, and drop onto something like edge settings, for example. And you can see some of the profile lines have disappeared. If you switch over to edit, then you can individually select the properties that you want to edit. For example, you can see profile lines are removed. Now I add the profile lines. So this is where you could have very detailed modifications to your style. It's going to be work, right? You'll have to explore and experiment. Don't be afraid to try different things. So if I go back here to mix, I can easily replace that edge setting with a different one. So right now I'm going to use the architectural design style, drop it onto the edge settings, okay? And then take a look at edit here. You can see it has some effects. But if I remove the endpoints, the extension, maybe I keep the profile and I make it 1 pixel, okay? And keep the edge settings there. Very clean, very fine lines. Also, you can look at the color. So normally we want to have it black and white. Now you can see also here the thumbnail is indicating it needs to be saved or updated. And that's what I'll do. If I click on it, now it'll save all those settings. So I can continue mixing different properties here, or I could just simply go to edit and make my changes manually. So here under style, you can see it's hidden line display mode. For the background is white, no sky, no ground, no watermarks. And then here for the model settings, right? If I was going to use this style to show interior sections, right, I would want to make sure that I show section cuts. Okay, so you could create variations of one style. So let's say, you know, this one is showing section cuts. So maybe I want to give it a name here. I'll call it number 2. And even update the description, right? I could say include section cuts. And when I click on this button to update, those will be the settings for that style. To create a variation, what I can do is I can create a new style. Okay, so if you look back here and select, you'll see that I've already saved my style, right? And then once I created a new style, just give it a generic name with the number added to it. But this one, again, I could just say something like no section, right? And then I go back to edit and remove the section cut option there. So now this is a new style that's updated. So I have 2 styles, black and white. One shows section cuts, the other one that doesn't. Okay? So as we continue, again, if we go back to mix, and let's say now we're going to create our fancy style, right? We'll just focus on these 2, and again, you can experiment and explore creating the other styles. So if I come over here to sketchy edges, let's say, all right, and I scroll down, I'm going to find a fine line, sketchy line. I'll select it here, drag and drop it onto edge settings, okay? Again, if I go back to edit and take a look at the individual properties, I can make adjustments, or I can continue to mix and search through the different styles available. Let's see, here is pencil with endpoints. Let's see how that looks. So if I drag and drop that, you can see you'll have the flexibility, limited only by your own creativity, to come up with an individualized, very highly customized artistic style. And I would definitely recommend that you explore that. This could be your signature style for all your presentation drawings, right? So let's say we keep this one. Again, you can see up here, the style, if I were to click on this thumbnail right now, would update the style that I currently have. What I want to do here is this is going to be my presentation style. So I'll just rename it. And let's say this is for color with effects, right? Presentation color. And simply just create new style. Okay? I can keep modifying this style. Again, either through mix or edit changes. So here, if I look at faces under edit, I can change it to show shaded with texture, right? Also, if I look at watermarks, we'll come back to that in a second. But the modeling settings here, maybe I want to have a style that shows section cuts here too, or maybe I don't. So you can duplicate and add or remove settings. All right, so far right now, these are the current settings. I'm going to make sure I update it. Now let's say this style, we also want to have an interesting background, right? An interesting sky. So if I go to mix, again, maybe I need to look into a different folder. And if I look at, let's say, the Style Builder competition winners, right? Maybe there's an interesting background there that I see in the thumbnail. What I could do is, again, grab, just select, drag, and drop it onto the value box, the drop box that you want to apply the style for. And you can see now, in the window, there's my background. And again, I'm prompted to update my changes, right? So let's say this is going to be the style that we're going to use. Go ahead and update. So we've got a couple styles in there that we just created using edit and mix options. All right, in the next video, we're going to take a look at actually building the standard views. So we're going to be making scenes. And then in the next video after that, we'll take a look at using layout for the final presentation.